Good evening. I am calling the Monday, June 28th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting to order. It is 6:30 p.m. Tonight's Planning Commission meeting will be held virtually by using Zoom and in person while following social distancing guidelines. As chair, I will be leading the Planning Commission meeting, and the public is welcome to participate when invited throughout the meeting. Members of the public may attend the meeting in person or join via online Zoom. If attendees experience audio problems, we suggest you leave the meeting and then rejoin. This has usually fixed the issue. Additional instructions on how to participate are posted online at www.burnsvillemn.gov in the public meeting calendar. As usual, tonight's meeting is available for viewing on BCTV and on the city's website. If you are unable to participate this evening and would like to submit public testimony, I encourage you to email your comments to city staff or mail your comments directly to City Hall. You may participate in the meeting tonight online by going to https://zoom.us/join and typing in meeting ID 961-3053-5189. Once you are logged into the meeting, please use the chat feature to tell the moderator which item you wish to speak to. You may also call into the meeting at 651-372-8299. The meeting ID is 961-3053-5189. For each public hearing, I will open a time when callers may speak to that item, and I will give more instructions at that time. Your call will be muted until then. Please note there may be a slight delay due to the differences in technology. If speaking by phone, please mute your computer since there may be a delay. All right, now on to the agenda. We will move to the adoption of the agenda. Do any of the commissioners have changes to this evening's agenda? Seeing none. Staff, any changes to tonight's agenda?
No changes.
All right, so if we could have a motion for adoption of the agenda, I would appreciate it. Oh, yeah. Commissioner John.
I would like to make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Commissioner.
As laid.
Thank you. Moved by Commissioner John. Commissioner Roberts.
I second that motion.
Thank you for the second, Commissioner Roberts. All right. We have everyone here, so we will just do live votes. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. And the motion carries. All right, we will move to consideration for approval of our last meeting, the minutes from the June 14th, 2021 meeting. Commissioners, any changes? And staff, any changes?
No, there are not.
All right, if we could have a motion, please. Commissioner Watt.
I move that we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
And Commissioner Henderson.
I will second that.
Thank you. Moved by Commissioner Watt, seconded by Commissioner Henderson. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. And the motion carries.
Oh, can I just interrupt? I'm going to abstain from that since I wasn't here.
Thank you. Commissioner Henderson abstains. Thank you. All right, we will move on to our one agenda item, our main agenda item this evening, which is a public hearing. The application of MWF Properties LLC for preliminary and final plat approval of a two-lot subdivision to be known as Gateway Housing and Variance to the Build-to Line Requirement along Gateway Boulevard for proposed Lot 1 and a Lot 1. Variance to the build-to-line along the first 50 feet of lot frontage on Gateway Boulevard and Pleasant Avenue for proposed Lot 1, and variance to the minimum floor area ratio requirement for proposed Lot 1 and Lot 2 to construct a 135-unit senior apartment building and 162-unit multifamily apartment building located at the intersection of Gateway Boulevard and Pleasant Avenue South. That was long. All right. Tonight, Ms. Madden, our city planner, will be providing a presentation. Ms. Madden, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Planning Commissioners. So the site tonight that we're going to be looking at is a vacant piece of property in the heart of the city. It is zoned TOD, Transit-Oriented Development, and guided heart of the city in the comprehensive plan. I do want to clarify that the yellow outline of this property here is closer to the outline of the proposed Lot 1, and actually the proposed Lot 2 does include the western part of undeveloped town offices that are to the south of this that you can kind of see the outlines on this map. So just one phase of those town offices were ever constructed, as you can kind of see in the bottom right corner in the imagery. So it's about just under 7 acres, or 6.6-ish acres of vacant land, surrounded by mostly commercial offices. To the east is the Diamond Head Education Center, and then to the northeast there is a senior housing cooperative, but generally most of the buildings in this area are commercial offices. So some of the overall application details for this evening. So as stated in the title of the item, this is a preliminary and final plat of 2 lots, subdivision to be known as Gateway Housing. There are 5 variances that are part of the variance request, an increase in the build-to line requirement, primarily along Gateway Boulevard, an increase or to allow the building on lot 1 to not meet a corner lot requirement for that first 50 feet of frontage. That's related to the triangular shape of the lot, which I'll go over later. And then for both lots, a decrease in the minimum floor area ratio, which I'll also go over in a moment. So as far as the overall use of constructing apartment buildings are a permitted use in the transit-oriented development district. The densities that they're proposing do meet the range for the zoning district. The item that's under review tonight is really limited to the variances in the plat. Okay, so as mentioned, about 6.57 acres of vacant land. These are 2 non-completed developments, so that these areas have always been primarily vacant. The northern site was originally part of the Gateway Business Park. There was some conceptual office and parking that was never developed on it. And then the southern lots, as you could see, they were previously platted into these town office lots, also that were never constructed. So there are easements to be vacated as part of that town office development, and just overall, when it comes with replatting previously platted lots, the easements are vacated and then rededicated. The vacation requires its own public hearing, and due to some timing discrepancies, that public hearing is going to be on the July 20th City Council meeting. So the preliminary plat and the variances, after moving forward tonight, would be placed on the July 6th City Council meeting, but the final plat would be waiting for adoption until the July 20th, along with the vacation for the easement dedication. The 2 lots in the subdivision do conform to the standards of the transit-oriented development zoning district. So shown here is the preliminary plat for the subdivision. If you can see on the screen, you can see the outlines of the former townhome lots, and that there are a number of easements, as mentioned, to be vacated as part of the application. For both of the properties, including the existing town offices, there is a former street that was vacated several years ago that is a part of these parcels land area for this application. So here is the final plat of the subdivision, showing 2 lots, mostly in half. So to go over some of the variances, so shown here so that we can kind of see it more clearly than on some of those detailed site plans, variances for lot 1, which is the northern lot. So the applicant has indicated that this will be an affordable senior building. So the first variance would be to the build-to line along Gateway Boulevard. So that is the road that you can primarily see here, west-ish of the building. The build-to line for the transit-oriented development district, because of the shape of the lot and the curvature in the road, the construction methods make it to where the building does not meet the build-to line in some areas. So there is a variance to that for the highest point at that northern point, which I apologize, I didn't write down the measurement of that. So to 25.1 feet along that western property line. So that they would require a 15-foot build-to line with a maximum setback of 20 feet, and so it's just over that 25 feet. The 50-foot frontage requirement, there is a requirement in transit-oriented development that on an intersection that the building for the first 50 feet of frontage, that the building meet the build-to line at that corner. because of this corner being shaped as it is, there was not an ability to meet that requirement based on the shape of the site. So that is the second variance. And then floor area ratio, to go over that pretty quick. So if you're not familiar with the term, this is a new term. It is exclusive to the Transit-Oriented Development Zoning District, and it was not in Heart of the City Code prior to the change. So floor area ratio would be if you divided the total area of all floors of the building by the overall area of the lot. So there's a minimum floor area ratio in transit-oriented development of 1.5, and Lot 1 is showing at 1.45. And so part of that is due to what is excluded from those calculations in the area of the lot. And in this case, as we mentioned, that northern tip of the property, which is triangular shaped, the building is not constructed in that area, and that is why, or one of the reasons why the floor area ratio is not met in this particular lot's case. On Lot 2, for the variances, the applicant is proposing market rate apartment buildings. The same variance is requested for the build-to line along Gateway. This property, you can see, has a more severe curve than the other property, and that construction methods is one reason why the build-to line variance is requested. So again, that is a 15-foot build-to line with a maximum setback of 20 feet, and per the proposed plans, 27 feet is the point that they would be requesting that variance for. That's the maximum furthest point from the setback line. And then again, the floor area ratio, as mentioned before, to decrease that from 1.5 to 1.36 for this lot. On this property, as you can see, there is a stormwater easement and holding pond that will be located on the property, which does affect some of those calculations. And also, this property is encumbered by a driveway easement on the southeast side. So you can see this strip of non-animated driveway that serves as access to the south office building as well as the north town office development. So that is an existing, on this property, access driveway easement, which can affect that calculation for floor area ratio. So moving on to the exterior of the building, the applicant has indicated that for both properties, the height is proposed to be approximately 47 feet. Some of that may change when it gets to the building permit stage, but that is not what's under review this evening. So there is no maximum building height in the transit-oriented development district. So for the Lot 1, which is the northern lot, the applicant's proposing 4 floors of apartments over 1 level of garage parking. They're proposing 135 units, which does equate to 46.7 units per acre. That is within the 20 to 80 range, which is the range for transit-oriented development. City code does require a minimum of 60% of the facade to be made up of primary building materials as described in the ordinance. Right now, it is showing at 58%, so there is a condition that's been added that be revised at the time of building permit application. For Lot 2, again, no maximum building height. In this case, though, it is 4 floors of apartment parking over 1.5 levels of parking. So there are 2 parking garages as part of this application, stacked, and I can get to some images of that later in the presentation. They do have separate entrances. One has an entrance off of the internal parking area, and one has an entrance off of Gateway Boulevard. They do not connect in the middle. So for this building, 162 units are proposed at 43.9 units per acre. Again, that's within the standards of the TOD district. I do want to mention that this is compatible materials between the 2 buildings. They're both featuring, I'm sorry, I'm congested today, stone veneer, decorative rock face, CMU, and wood tone siding. Apologize. So for parking, both properties do meet the parking requirements of the zoning ordinance required on Lot 1. They meet the, I'm so sorry. They meet the enclosed parking stalls requirement as well as the overall parking for the site. Bike parking required for the site is 34 spaces and proposed is 42 spaces. And as you can see in the images here, this is the northern lot. There is a underground parking entrance off of Gateway Boulevard again to the west. And then image on the right, a little bit crowded, zoomed in to show the surface parking area. Both buildings do feature somewhat of an enhanced entrance to the building, shown in some of their renderings with seating areas, things like that. Parking on Lot 2. Again, both sites do meet the parking requirements of the ordinance. You can see here a better visualization of the idea of 2 levels of parking. So the first level, you can enter the parking garage or the level shown on the left, which is actually the lowest of the levels, entrance off of Gateway Boulevard. And the right photo shows the entrance off of the internal parking area. So they do not connect in the middle. I did want to point out with the bike parking that both properties are actually showing, and you can't see it so much on these images, but maybe a little bit in your background report, that the majority of the bike parking spaces are within bike storage rooms in both of the lower level parking. But they also both include an 8-space bike parking rack in front of the buildings. And again, in the lower kind of screen grab that I've provided of the surface parking lot, you can see the drive aisle entrance and kind of that enhanced entrance area that's been provided for the apartment building. Shown here is the landscaping plan. This is something that could change by the time of building permit application, but the site is fully irrigated. The properties both meet the building perimeter landscaping and parking and drive aisle landscaping requirements. There is a shared dog park between the 2 properties, which is discussed in the background report, and you can see it better on this plan, and it's kind of the square area here. So it is on the property line between the 2 buildings. So shown here is the grading plan. What I did want to point out, and what is maybe a little bit difficult to see, is adjacent to the stormwater holding pond, there is a large retaining wall that will be part of this proposal, and per some of the comments and part of the review memo, there, because of its height, there will be some fencing on top of the wall. So just quickly to get through some of the things, trash handling is going to be contained within the building. The applicant has indicated that any roof-mounted mechanical equipment would be in the center of the building and not visible from the street. In the instance where there is ground-mounted equipment, there is visibility on the landscape plan showing that those are screened. For signage, the Transit-Oriented Development District would allow a freestanding sign up to 6 feet in height, a monument sign, and they are proposing one near the Lot 1 drive aisle entrance. That would get finalized more with a sign permit later in the process. There is a potential for signage above the entrances, which would be allowed in TOD, and again, that's something that's addressed at the permit stage. For the lighting plan, what's proposed at this time does meet the zoning ordinance standards for exterior lighting and bleeding onto properties. It does meet those requirements. We will ask for some more specifics on the cut sheets and specifications at the time of building permit. General engineering considerations that we can talk about if needed. There are utility improvements and service improvements provided with the development. There are stormwater infrastructure that's accommodated at grade and underground. There are development fees that are associated with the plat, including park dedication. And this is included in the conditions of the recommendation section of this report. And a low-impact development management practices agreement would be required to be on file with the property, and that's something that's worked out with the engineering department. For planning considerations, land use items under review is the new plat and the 5 variances that have been outlined. Residential apartments are permitted use in TOD. A neighborhood meeting was held via Zoom on June 9th. There was a presentation and there were no questions asked of the applicant afterwards. Overall, staff is recommending approval of the preliminary and final plat and variance, subject to the following conditions. Approval of the final plat is subject to approval of the preliminary plat. These will be on 2 different meetings. Revised exterior elevation plan shall be provided, as mentioned in that section of the presentation. A tree removal permit should be obtained prior to removal of trees on the site. Sign permits be obtained from the city prior to installation. Parking lot and exterior building lighting details provided at time of building permit application. That all outstanding city engineer comments be addressed. Development fees are due prior to the releasing of the plat. And should the unit count increase, there are park dedication fees per unit that are due per a formula in our ordinance. And then again, the low-impact development agreement executed and recorded prior to building permit. So as mentioned, we are recommending approval. This is a public hearing this evening. There's a member from the applicant team in the audience. I can be available for questions if necessary as well.
All right, thank you, Ms. Madden. All right, commissioners, let's throw out any questions we have for Ms. Madden now, and then after the public hearing, maybe we can cycle back with additional questions, but that was a lot of information to take in. I'm sure there's a few questions you may have. Commissioner Roberts.
Just quick, we've dealt with variances in the past, and we have guidelines for that.
Yes.
A lot of information that we had to go through on this. From what I could figure out, there really wasn't any red flags that went up. Your team obviously went through it. You didn't really, you felt like they met the variance requirements that we needed.
Yes, so per the policy, and going through that incident, so there's 11 positives on the checklist and 4 negatives.
Right.
So they did meet the variance guideline policy for the city's ability to approve a variance.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that. Thanks.
Commissioner Rudd.
Yeah, I had a couple, great presentation, by the way, Ms. Madden, as always. A couple questions about the variances. First one is the build to line. I don't know if you can go back to that slide in your presentation, kind of the color diagram. So is the build to line dash, like a very light dashed line around the perimeter of the property?
Yes, on this, I believe it is. It is more detailed in the background report. I did not attach the image of the full site plan to this presentation.
Okay, and in the TOD district, the building really is supposed to be closer to the street than they're proposing. And so
That's
this
right.
building is not as close to the street as is required.
That's right.
Okay, that seems pretty straightforward. And similar question about the floor area ratio. In the TOD district, floor area ratio is 1.5, and they're under that, which means the building and the number of floors in the building are not quite big enough for the lot as per the TOD.
That's correct. The idea with the TOD district would be taller, maybe denser development.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I had.
Similar to that question, can you help me understand on the pictures that we've seen, is there access into the building from the street, or is it simply from the garage and the parking lot? Because one of the, I guess, imagination or imaginative ideas of the transit-oriented development district is really to make it a walkable community, make buildings accessible from the street, and I'm not seeing obvious entrances, but maybe you can point something out or talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, I can do that. So the main entrances for both buildings do face the parking area. You are right that you noted that. There are guest entrances that do face some of the sidewalk connections off of Gateway Boulevard. So one is kind of here, and that would also be how they could access the dog area. And then, I might not be able to point it out here, but if the applicant could possibly later point out some of those other connections, there are other entrances to the building outside of, but the main entrances do face the parking areas for both buildings.
Okay. And I'm not recalling which project we looked at where we had this same discussion. I think we talked about signage or maybe the grand entrance and where it was facing. But is there any language in the TOD ordinance that talks about the main entrance being street facing versus parking lot facing?
I don't believe there is specifically related to that. What there is a requirement for some sort of aesthetic element, whether that's a plaza or public art or enhanced entrance, and that the enhanced entrance route is the route that both buildings are taking.
Okay. All right. Commissioner John?
Yeah, I had a really quick question. Usually, when we see these, aren't we looking at the final plat? This is more of a preliminary plat. What's the reason behind it?
Yeah, so the final plat has been prepared, and it is part of the application. Its later approval would go with the vacation of prior easements at a later city council meeting, but it is part of the public hearing tonight to review the final plat as well.
Okay, thanks.
All right, I will come back to the commissioners in a little bit, but if the applicant is here, I would like to have you address the commission and maybe answer a few questions for us. If you would please state your name and address for the record, and then tell us whatever you'd like to.
Okay. Peter Worthington with MWF Properties. We're at 7645 Lindale Avenue South in Richfield.
All right. So I guess the first thing is, could you address the question about the street-facing entrances? And
sure.
if those would be public entrances, and really, I'm sure at this point in the process, you understand the TOD district and the intent of that to
Sure.
be a walkable community. I guess, tell me how people get in and out and how it fits into the TOD district.
The public entrance is from the parking area. They're access to the gateway for both buildings, but they're not intended for the public to be using. They're intended for our residents to come and go. For security reasons, we don't want to have additional public entrances. But there is connection to the sidewalk for both buildings for bikes and for pedestrians.
Okay, so if a resident wanted to access the street and
Go out and walk the dog, go
Walk
out, take a
down to
bike, take a
Jensen's
bike
for
ride.
breakfast.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then they can get back in because they'll be key fobbed, but there won't be a way for somebody without a key fob to get in.
Okay, sounds good. Any other questions for the applicant? All right, we may come back to you.
I'll be here.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I think at this time, what I will do is open the public hearing. I think we do have one participant on Zoom who wishes to speak. Or we at least have a participant on Zoom. I don't know if they wish to speak, but if they do, please indicate that to the moderator and we will allow you to speak. If there's anybody in the audience who'd like to speak, please come to the podium now. I will, let's see here. So if you would just come to the podium, we're gonna open the public hearing at 6:57. And if you'd state your name and address for the record and let us know your thoughts.
My name is Octavio Chung, Octavio, Chung, Chung, and I live in Hugo, Minnesota.
Okay, Mr. Chung, go ahead.
Thank you, members of the Planning Commission, to let me speak today. Like I said, my name is Octavio Chung Bustamante. I work as an organizer for LAUNA, Labor's International Union of North America. LAUNA is a labor organization that seeks to advance the welfare of union and non-union construction workers in Minnesota. Our members do all type of construction, from demolition to concrete placement to asbestos removal. Our membership is diverse. More than 100 members and retirees live right here in Burnsville. We represent more than 12,000 statewide members. I understand that MWF Properties is proposing an apartment project at the intersection of Gateway Boulevard and Pleasant Avenue. Our members support multifamily housing construction, and we have no objection to MWF as a developer. I'm here, however, to express concern about the conduct of Stonepro Masonry, Stonepro, a contractor that has previously done work for MWF. Most recently at the Lexington Flats project in Eagan. Our team has here troubling allegations from Stonepro workers of wage theft, discrimination while working for the company. We also know that Stonepro relies heavily on H-2B guest worker visas, and our investigation found that the company might have cheated dozens of immigrant workers out of tens of thousands of dollars in wages. we were also told that the guest workers were, they were putting in a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. A dozen workers in a house in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. We talk to workers about these issues because it is our goal to protect all workers and to make sure that we have a fair playing field in the construction industry for all workers. No worker should be subject to wage theft or discrimination, nor should they be packed into housing like animals. I invite you to visit www.buildbettermn.org to find out detailed information on our concerns with the Storm Pro. Housing is needed, but so is decent, fair treatment for local workers. Both can happen through this project as long as the developer uses responsible contractors. We are deeply troubled by what we have learned about Storm Pro and hope that the developer is committed to making sure that no contractor engaged in wage theft or exploitation is allowed to work on this or any of their projects. Our members want to make sure that wage theft and other exploitation don't occur in any community. We ask that the city to keep wage theft prevention in mind as you consider this and other proposed development projects. This is not about MWF, this is about Storm Pro. And we are here because Storm Pro was working on one of their projects, not too long ago. And we hope that you use your power within the system to make sure that this situation, they don't take place in Bronxville. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chung. Any questions? All right, thank you very much. Thank you for those statements. I think it's worth noting, and it's been entered into the public record. I'm not going to ask MWF to come and respond to them at this point, but I think that that comment has made it very clear to them that you have a concern. If MWF does want to respond to that comment, I would welcome them to, but I think that you've made them aware at this point, and you've made us all aware, so thank you very much for that. So I will open it up to anyone else who has comments at this point on this particular project. All right, I will check Zoom. Nobody on Zoom. Okay, so thank you, Mr. Chung. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:02, and I'm going to turn back to the commissioners for additional thoughts, comments, questions, or concerns. I think one of the things worth noting here, and we kind of got to it with doors and everything else, but this is the new, newly zoned transit-oriented development district. And I think that knowing that apartments are already approved in the zoning district, this fits exactly within the framework and the structure that we were looking for in this district. I think the project looks nice. I like to see the senior apartments. I like to see really some good design and architectural features. Frankly, I think that this is a nice project, and it will bring more people to walk to Jensen's and to walk to some of our other areas in what was formerly known as the heart of the city area, as far as zoning's considered. So, Commissioner John.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would agree with what you're saying there. It sounds to me like this is, when you write the comments for variance, this fits right down that, it's almost the very definition of variance. The structure of the streets, the way the streets come together, all are what's hampering this project, nothing more, nothing less. It doesn't seem like it's too above and beyond to not move forward with this project as it is set up.
Thank you. Commissioner Roberts.
This question is for the applicant, actually. In regards to other facilities that you've had business with in Minnesota, was Egan one of those locations that you've built in already?
Yes, correct.
What was the name of the facilities? Was it Egan Point? Was it Lexington Point? Was it
Lexington Flats.
Lexington Flats? Okay. Just to clarify which one it was. Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Wad.
I was gonna echo your sentiment. This project seems like a pretty elegant solution to a difficult site, and a site that's been struggling to be developed for probably 40 years or so. So I'm was thrilled to see this, and I hope it moves forward. And on that, are we ready for a motion?
We are, there's nobody in queue.
I will then make a motion, that we recommend to the city council approval of the preliminary and final plat and variance, subject to the 8 conditions that were listed.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Wad. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, moved by Commissioner Wad, seconded by Commissioner Henderson. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, we will vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. And the motion carries. Thank you all for joining us. This will go, it sounds like, to the July 6th City Council for plat consideration, and then the July 20th City Council meeting for the actual vacation of those existing issues. So, all right, we will move forward then, and I guess we're already reaching the end, which will be updates. And as chair, I'm going to sneak in here and give the first update, and that is that I want to sincerely thank Commissioner Roberts and Commissioner Henderson for their 3 years, right, of dedicated service to the city of Burnsville and the Planning Commission. I started with you, and it's been an absolute honor over the last 3 years to work with you and get to know you. I'm really bummed that this is your last meeting, and I hope to stay in touch with you guys. Thank you so much, and the city is lucky to have you as citizens.
Thank you.
All right, any other updates, commissioners? Staff?
Yes, so July 12th will be your next Planning Commission meeting. There are 2 new commissioners that will be starting at that meeting, so we will start off the meeting with swearing them in. There will be an election of chair and vice chair, and then we will move on to our regular items. But that is the only update that I have.
All right, thank you, Ms. Madden. All right, so we will get to adjournment here. I just have to read one final thing, and that's a reminder that members of the public can submit additional public comments related to the items on this evening's Planning Commission meeting agenda until 4:30 p.m. on Friday, July 2nd, 2021. These comments will be included with the City Council background for consideration. All right, at this time, I'd like to request a call for adjournment of tonight's meeting. Commissioner Roberts.
I move to adjourn.
Commissioner Henderson.
I will second that.
You didn't raise your hand, but I'm picking on you anyway. All right, thank you so much, and we have a motion by Commissioner Roberts, seconded by Commissioner Henderson. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. And the motion carries. We are adjourned at 7:08.